All right, welcome to another season of Unrestricted with Ryan Johnson. We're here with our second season of our podcast, here with DJ UnProtected. His government name is Peter Murray. He joined us last year for episode 1. He is the show's producer. Welcome back, Peter.
Hey, thanks, Ryan, man. I'm glad to be back.
Awesome. It's good to have you. So in the last year, you've released new music.
I have.
You've done some traveling. You got a promotion at your day job. You've been in college. A lot has been going on for you. It seems, from an outsider's perspective, like a really great year for Peter. How has this last year been for you?
It's been excellent, man. I mean, there was a lot of roadblocks. Nothing about it was easy, but it was tons of learning lessons, and just approached it with a driving, forward attitude, and just kept pushing through. But it just had to be, checking off the boxes of reaching milestones.
Yeah.
And so I know you mentioned school. Like, I did finish, graduated, got my music degree.
That's awesome.
But it wasn't through like an easy process. Like, I almost failed out.
Really?
Yeah, because I started to lose interest in the programs, and I didn't have like my goals in line with what they needed to be.
Okay.
And so, but I was able to persevere through it, and then was able to graduate, man. And it was a great feeling once you get that done.
Right. What does that what does that degree do for you? How does it benefit you?
It's a good question, because we've done a previous podcast, we talked to people and they're like, look, personal education and then formal education, and real growth comes from personal education.
Yep.
Well, what a degree in like music or something can help you out is it's just a credibility factor.
Okay.
Right? And then obviously you learn some things along the way, you network, but when I'm meeting with clients, I'm not just some bedroom producer. I can be like, hey, I studied at Full Sail University, got my degree, my bachelor's, and so it just adds a little credibility element.
Sure.
So I think in that aspect it helps. And then when you charge your rate, your value,
right.
You can incorporate that in what you're asking for your clients.
Interesting. How, so that's kind of the formal side of what you've received and gotten this last year, which is great. How would you say that out of classroom experience that you just kind of touched on, how would you say that has gone for you this last year since we last talked?
It's been good.
Yeah.
I mean, I was working with a couple new clients, and recording with new artists. I was learning lessons along the way. Of course, there's always going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what you're doing, but it's been going really well. I mean, definitely the things I've picked up from the prior podcast.
Yeah.
But it's good developing relationships. I started working with this one client, young kid, 18-year-old, great guitar player, great singer, and beyond just pushing, like helping him with the music and as a producer, but it's also like giving him guidance on, okay, like if you want to be a badass guitar player, then showcase your guitar playing skills. Like, why is there not YouTube videos of you just jamming out on your guitar?
Interesting. Pushing out content, pushing out to the world
exactly
what you're about.
Exactly. So I just think from the growth from my end of knowing that I need to do that myself, pushing out content of me in the studio, working on projects, loading up the Instagram account with me doing what I love to do. It's no different than talking to a client being like, hey, if you want to be that, then let the world see you doing that.
Interesting.
If you're not a singer-songwriters, I mean, they're always on YouTube doing cover songs, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So that's where, it's good to give that type of advice.
It is. How do you find some of the people you work with? So as a producer, and you're working with another artist in the studio, are they receptive to feedback?
They are.
Do you ever come across people that aren't receptive to feedback?
Yes, I have.
How's that work?
That's
gotta be frustrating.
It is frustrating. But I think it's how you give it to them. Because as a producer, I want them to record the best thing possible.
Right.
We're trying to create great music, and you kind of have to put your pride aside.
Yes.
And it's not about what you want, it's what's going to be best for the track. So, for example, like I don't want an artist to be frustrated when we're talking in the studio because I want them to sing well.
Sure.
It's all mental, right? They can't be thinking about anything else. They have to feel the music so that we can feel it when we enjoy it as consumers.
Right.
And so you talk to them, like say maybe they're doing one part a little too soft. You don't want to say, hey, don't do it that way. I want you to sing harder. Because it kind of comes off, they're like, well, what do you mean I'm not? To them, it seems like they're not doing it right.
Kind of an attack.
Yeah, but if you change it up, be like, hey, that was good, but if you don't mind, let's just try a take of you singing that word like a little harder, emphasize the ending of it. And then they may give that push and be a little more confident, like, okay, well, if I did the other thing right, then I can do this one as well.
Okay.
And so it's just, it's almost like mental manipulation, but you really want them to feel good.
It's guiding them.
Right.
Kind of like you're guiding them through the process.
Yeah, but sometimes like after you do the recording and stuff and there's feedback, the key thing I think on my end is how I'm receptive to feedback.
Interesting. Okay.
So if they come to me and be like, hey, we want to adjust the intro or maybe the drums didn't sound right. If I argue back, then they're going to fight back on anything I suggest.
Right.
So you have to find the middle ground or just be like, okay, yeah, I can change that up.
Yeah.
Here, let's try it out and see how it sounds.
Interesting. When you're in the studio for yourself, because you put out music this year,
yes.
How do you, you collaborate with other people? Is it just you? And if it is just you, how do you, I guess how long does that process take? If it's like, if I'm an artist and I come to you and we're kind of collaborating together to get me this song that I'm going to put out, but if it's you, what's your process?
So sometimes the process, I can come up with a song in, a day.
Yeah.
And then sometimes other songs take several weeks. But the process usually is I get an idea. Maybe I have like vocal samples. I purchase like royalty-free vocals, maybe from artists out in LA or Florida or wherever.
Sure.
And so I get a feel for what the sense of the music is. Yeah. And I just start composing. I sit there in front of the piano and I just start playing behind their vocals. How would I want this to sound?
Yeah.
And then, then I start working on the drums. If I'm going to do a house beat, then I know what tempo and type of sounds are in common house music. There's no need to reinvent the wheel.
Okay.
You do what's already out there and people like, and then maybe adjust it and add your own flair to it.
Okay.
And then from there, then it's just building the beat. What I like to do is do 2 different segments and just add in whatever.
Yeah.
Like my main thing I always tell myself is no idea is a bad idea.
I like that.
Yeah, in the creative process, because if you start telling me I don't like how that sounds, well then you're going to start shutting your own self off. Whereas I'm just like, you know what, cool, that sounded good. Yeah. Let me just duplicate that synth and let me do another part and duplicate. And I'm like, oh, maybe I hear this drum sound. Maybe I hear this effect sound. Let's reverse the vocals. I just do it, have fun with it.
Right.
I can beat myself up later when I'm doing the arrangement. So sometimes like in that creative process, I'll have, 70, 80 tracks of like just melodies and chords. Wow. And then I'll have to be like, okay, I got to hash these out. Yeah.
How do you find your way through those 70, 80 tracks?
Yeah, just start with the most important. Like anything else, you got to prioritize it.
Sure.
So it's house music, dance music. You got to make sure your drums are kicking. Yeah. People got to feel the rhythm.
Right.
And then the vocals, the most prominent part. Then I like to slide in the bass, and then from there it's just what's going to sound good. Like you got the chords to drive behind the melody, and anything else. Honestly, to me, like effects. Yeah. Added little reverse crashes or. Yeah. It's just ear candy.
Okay.
And then so I'll be like, well, I didn't like this one, but I like this one. And then I'll just start, do a save as. So I always keep original ideas, right?
Yeah.
Always, save is your favorite function. But definitely, some projects will have like 15, 16 different versions by the end of it.
That's pretty cool. Do you have a favorite platform you like to put your music out on, or one that you feel brings the most value, or how do you pick your platforms where you release your music?
Well, I do YouTube. I release everything on YouTube. I think my fan base did some research, and as an EDM producer, majority of my fan base finds their music on YouTube.
Okay.
And some of my friends actually, they always send me tracks through YouTube.
Okay.
They're always like, hey, I don't know if you've heard this one. So I think YouTube has to be like, a lot of people use that to search for music.
Sure. Yeah. Right? Yeah, they do.
That's how they find their artist, and maybe they listen to a couple tracks, right? And then all of a sudden, let me open up Apple Music or Spotify, create a playlist, and see if their music's out there.
Yeah.
But I as an artist, I think it's important to not limit yourself, especially in the digital realm. Yeah. You can release it through a distribution service. Yeah. I think you have to hit Spotify, You have to be on iTunes, sure, Amazon Play, Google Play.
Yeah.
Mostly people just stream now.
Right.
So I mean, posting it on those ones, those are downloadable.
Sure.
But I don't really believe a lot of people are downloading music because hard drives, everything internally on computers are a lot smaller.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I think it's just every streaming platform. I think Spotify is important.
How do you see yourself growing in the next year? Kind of talk about some of the stuff you've done over the last year, personally, professionally, and how many songs have you released actually in the last year?
So in the last year, I've released, I put out 3 songs, 4 including a remix.
Yeah.
And I definitely I've got a lot more that I want to put out.
Yeah.
I had the summer anthem, My Squad. That was a fun track, and that was actually my graduating project for Full Sail University.
Nice.
And it was funny. I created the beat. It was like very high energy, and I was like gonna record this sample of like My Squad.
Yeah,
so I was recording it, but I sound terrible on the mic. So I was like editing the vocals and all that, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put out the instrumental.
Yeah.
It was just a fun track to make.
That's cool.
Then I had a track On My Own, and that was a cool track because it's actually a female singer, but I pitched her vocals down.
Okay.
And basically made it sound like, almost like a guy singing.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've heard like the artist Zoo. He's done like some tracks, and the vocals are always usually pitched down.
Okay.
So not quite like as deep as like Chopped and Screwed.
Okay.
But just a moderate tone, so nobody knew it was a female singing.
Wow, interesting.
And it totally happened by accident, but I felt the way it sounded really resonated with how the music felt.
Interesting.
And so that's where I'm at with that. Like recently I did that remix.
Yes.
Ain't Thinking About You.
Yeah.
I love the track. It was for a competition.
Yeah.
But I came across it it was like a week before the competition.
Yeah.
Was gonna close out, and I was like, I may not meet the deadline, but I'm still gonna put this out because it was just a really fun track with the vocals. So, but coming up, I know you'd ask like where I see myself.
Yeah.
Definitely want to do more remixes, and then I've got a couple other tracks that I had worked on that I want to finish out. They're in the final process of doing the mixing and mastering. Okay. And so if I can put out a handful of tracks by the end of the year, that'd be cool. I'm also going to do a Christmas house album.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And segue into that is because, November, December, I'm always getting tapped up to do holiday parties as a DJ.
Yeah.
So last year, one of the clients was like, I want house Christmas music. There's not a lot of house Christmas music out there.
I don't even know what that sounds like, but that sounds interesting.
Yeah, and I purchased this album of tracks from this company out of Ibiza, which, house music, party capital, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, and they're like second to Ministry of Sound.
Yeah.
And the tracks were like, it sounded like someone could have just done, but it didn't sound good. They had the beat, and then it would like, fade out, and then you would just hear like jingle bells on the piano, and then it'd go into a beat.
Okay.
So this year I'm gonna do DJ UnProtected Christmas album.
I like that.
Yeah, and
That's
so
cool.
I'm just gonna put that together and then put it out. It'll be like 8 to 10 tracks of just Christmas beats.
Wow.
House music, so it'll be fun.
That would be cool.
And it's like a no threat, so I'm definitely gonna put that out because I want to play that stuff.
Yeah.
So if you want to use tools
Yep.
for your skill, then sometimes you have to create your own tools.
Interesting. I like that. Really dictating kind of speaks to dictating your path. Like you said, like using your tools to get where you want.
Exactly.
How do you kind of changing gears here? But how do you talk about Instagram and the different music platforms that you release your music on, YouTube included? How do you foresee those platforms continuing to be used by yourself? How do they benefit you? I mean, some of that stuff might seem obvious to people. We know that everybody is using their phones and phone apps and technology, but it's continuing. I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon.
No.
I was watching a Gary Vee video last night, and he talked about this app called TikTok, and he thinks that Instagram is going to go away and TikTok will take over. Who knows? But how do you foresee technology helping you as an artist, as a producer? And maybe even your clients?
I think it's a very important question because people need to be on the technology board for sure, especially social media. But I see it as just increasing exposure and visibility. And that is the biggest thing because we may be here in San Antonio, Texas,
Right.
but if I tag something or post something and a friend of mine in Colorado, repost it
Yeah.
in his Instagram feed or something, now people are seeing that and they're like, hey, who's that guy?
Yeah.
And then boom, they click on your tag, they go look at your profile view. So what I always look at each week, when you have your business profiles, you can see like maybe personal profiles too, but they have how many visitors you've had in the past week.
Yep.
And so I noticed that like the more engagement I have of tagging people, that increases, which means those are exposure of people seeing at Unprotected.
Yep.
And then they click on it and they go to your profile. Something pops up in your timeline, they're like, oh man, like, what's he up to? Boom, they go to your profile.
Yeah.
So I think it's huge just for the exposure outlet. And beyond that, a lot of people are like, hey, release new music, check link in my bio, and then you click on the link and it goes to some sale page. I think what people need to remember is that your main real estate is your own personal website. And I learned that in school, so like your bio should just have your website link. And then they go to your website, they can find your music there.
Interesting.
Don't send me to YouTube. I don't want to go to YouTube. Like, yeah, okay, I want to hear your music, but what are you about?
Yeah.
But I just think it's important to just be involved. So if the craze kind of shifts, then maybe there may need to be that TikTok involvement, but I have to look more into that. I thought TikTok was always hey, I'm gonna voice over, like they play a video and then I'm gonna emulate that video, visually.
I'm not sure. I think it's interesting, kind of this age we live in. I was telling some people a couple weeks ago, it's this really interesting time. You look at go back to 1900, and you look from 1900 to year 2000, how much changed when it came to inventions and technology and transportation. We went from horse and carriage, to motor vehicles, to big ships where people were traveling on, like the Titanic, right? Stuff like that. You went from hot air balloons to airplanes. Pretty crazy, I think. And I think we're kind of in an interesting age of technology where we all grew up with, we experienced life with no cell phone, right? As a kid, only the Richie Rich had the huge cell phone. He had to almost hold it two hands.
Right.
And then I think around, at least for me, it was like early 2000s, high school age, people had the flip phone. And that was cool, singular. I had a singular cell phone growing up. And then, you go to something like the Razor and then the Sidekick, and then everybody has an Android or an Apple iPhone. And then, you use those phones, we have apps, and those apps are now connect us. It's not just the phone and the texting that connects us, it's the apps that connect us. And so we live in this age where, if you're a basketball fan, I use this as an example, but it's like you can literally reach out to LeBron James, and in theory, you might get a response back from him. I guess I'm gonna keep watching these windows behind us, so if anybody's catching that reverberation, that's what that is. But we live in a world where you can reach out, in theory, to anybody. And I think that is, it brings us closer, and I think that is one of the benefits to technology and to social media in particular. But hearing about kind of the positive aspect of that, and some of that might seem obvious to some people, but I think it's important to acknowledge it, that if you have a business, if you're pursuing a dream, even if you're pursuing a dream or a passion, it doesn't have to necessarily be a business. You could be an athlete looking for connection to a coach or to where you're trying to reach. I think that it's important to be able to use those avenues for your benefit. And it's going to be interesting, I think, to see where technology goes, where these apps go. Instagram's been around for 10 years. Something that's been around, I think, 10 years, I figured it'll probably be around for a long time. Facebook has been around since 2000. I got into college in 2005, and I'm sure it was just taking off. And it's 15 years later, it's still around, and I don't think it's going away. So it'll be interesting to see where technology goes and how it benefits. I think the music industry, even the music industry has taken some turns. Napster, and we went from tapes to CDs to Napster and MP3s, and what is okay? Free music versus paying for music. How does that affect the artist and the producer and everything that goes behind putting a song out? Those industries rely on technology. So I think it'll be interesting. I don't know if TikTok is going to take off, and I don't know, or if it's not TikTok, what that thing is. Um, how do you foresee live music, the live music industry, right? Like concerts and music festivals. We kind of talked about this, about putting a music festival together.
Right.
Firefest had their two documentaries that came out, and the debacle that was. How do you see, if at all, do you see that changing? We've got Coachella, and you've got Glastonbury, and a bunch of others. Do you see that changing, where it's more of a centralized location, like the iHeart Music in Vegas? Do people go to those, or do you think that people continue to do tours? And I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to those large festivals. That's what I think it is. I mean, people are always going to be like diehard fans for one artist.
Sure.
The AT&T Center here in San Antonio, will host the Weeknd and Jennifer Lopez. The big stars are always going to fill those places.
Sure.
Because you're going to have those diehard fans. But this whole concert thing, I think people are always going to fall in love with their local town acts. But I think the future it's going to become more virtual. Hey, you want to see a concert online? It's going to be like how people, see their favorite fighters on TV.
Interesting.
If you want to see this concert online, you're going to have to pay to stream it.
Interesting.
Maybe initially or after the fact. It depends, because you have companies like YouTube, so Ultra Music Festival will post, sets of their DJs afterwards, or they'll put it on their pages, but some of those guys will put an ad every 6 minutes, and it's so annoying. I would rather pay $5 and then be able to watch a complete set. Ad free, and just be able to watch a complete set, because I like that type of music, or going to that, or to see the artist performing. I don't want ads popping up, but you know what? That artist can choose to do that because they upload it to their page,
right.
And YouTube's like, hey, people see it, we're going to get paid per view, and then we'll pay them.
Yeah.
And I think that's really frustrating, but I think it is going to come down to we're going to be more enhanced virtually, because the industry is making up digital sales, and streaming has hit the music industry hard. Because when they were making vinyl, selling CDs, cassettes, boku bucks.
Yeah.
Pre-2000s, I would say mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous how much money they were pulling in the music industry.
Right.
And now that's all shifted once Napster, like you said, streaming platforms, it's all taken a hit. So when you think about it, the artists are getting most of their money from live. Live.
Doing shows. Do you think could that be a benefit though? Almost like a blessing in disguise, maybe, and a long-term effect is that it causes artists to go on the road to connect with their audience. You go to a concert. That is I think it's an intense experience, whether you're sitting in the rafters or you're first row.
Absolutely.
I went to a Fleetwood Mac concert in college, and for a week I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was because they were so good live. And Stevie Nicks is, she's not 20 anymore, but she still sounds amazing. And so to have, I think, those experiences, I think it creates not fanatical, but a more intense relationship with your fans, a stronger bond with your fans, for them to see you in person and to connect with you. Versus, they're not on the road that often. They always do their studios. Their studios have to push it out, and you got to go to the store and buy the CD. That's an experience too in itself, but I think as days gone by. But I just wonder if you think that could create better stronger fan bases, do you think, for artists?
I absolutely do think it does. Because it, like you said, it brings people out there. They see who you are. You're interacting with the crowd. Maybe you grab somebody's cell phone from the front row and do a big selfie, or you're handing out, if you're a guitar player, handing out guitar picks. I remember seeing Maroon 5, and I like Adam Levine, and I like the music. I don't know it all by heart.
Sure.
There's a few songs that I really liked, and I saw them live, and it was amazing. The way he interacted with the crowd, interacted with the band, and then, even connect with everyone. He's like, hey, everyone put their phone down, because let me let you know what it looks like when you guys are like this. And he sits there and he holds the microphone in front of his face, and he's like, how would you guys like if I perform like this? You came here to see me. I came here to perform and see you.
Yeah.
Everybody put their phones down, because we're going to get intimate. And I was like, man, that's great. Like, he really showed his appreciation. Like, I want to see my fans, not your phone.
Right.
And it was great. So I love that. I thought that was really cool. And it does develop that connection.
Right.
And so then, I started downloading a bunch of, Maroon 5 songs after that. Because I was like, wow, I heard it live.
Yeah.
Let me hear the recorded version. But it does build a connection, and it allows people to know you.
Yeah.
And to see what you're passionate about.
Right.
And I know me, like, as a DJ, like, performing live, like, that's just such a great feeling. Like, I don't have to really say anything.
Yeah.
I'm mixing things up that I love, and I'm connecting with the crowd, and that's a different feeling than sitting in the studio forever.
Sure.
And doing your stuff. But
Sure.
I mean, just that feeling of knowing when you play one of your tracks.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, all those hours, that time I put in the studio, and you play it, and people are enjoying it, and they're like, man, that's cool.
And
you get a thumbs up.
Yeah.
You're like, that's the interaction you want.
It's got to be a cool experience, a cool feeling.
It is. And so I don't think that'll ever go away.
Yeah.
But I do, like, concert prices are just sometimes ridiculous. Like, festivals,
Yeah.
and I get it, lots of DJs, people got to get paid, all that, but Ultra Music Festival, like Miami, next one, 2020,
Yeah.
I was looking at getting tickets, and general admission like $600-700.
Wow.
And you can only get 3-day passes. What if I only want to go to? Why can't you just go to a show for one day? I hate that.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
are these millennials that committed? Like, I have commitment issues. I don't want to go for 3 full days.
Do you think do you think even that will change the landscape and the scope of the festival, the festival experience? It seems like they're popping up because some of them have been around for a minute now. I mean, like, was it Tomorrowland?
Right.
Saw Shaquille O'Neal was DJing at those, but
And mosh pitting.
yeah, I don't know if I want to get that mosh pit. But do you Firefest, even though it had the seeming backing of certain celebrities, which I think tends to give weight and credibility. I mean, obviously that it didn't have what it was advertised, but do you see people in the future, maybe almost like startups, like a startup? We had talked about this a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Like, what does it take to do a music festival? Do you foresee maybe even something like that for indie acts as being kind of an avenue that could be pursued?
I think it could be, because you know what? You're going to have indie artists who want to perform, and they have friends, and you get them to bring the venue.
Yeah.
I got involved with this other company, and I didn't really like their business model, but I can see how it would be working for them.
Yeah.
So say if, like, you're an artist and I signed you on, and I'm like, hey, we got this event coming to your local town. You give us $350. We'll give you 35 or 50 tickets.
Yeah.
You sell them for whatever. If not, they're going to be 15 out the door. You can sell those tickets on your own to make your $350 back.
Okay.
And then to get on our stage, once you show up, you have to pay us additional $50, which covers the cost.
Okay.
The issue I have with, like, that type of thing is that now you're asking people to pay to play. And if you're passionate about something, like, to pay to play, and I get it, like, sometimes you have to do that.
Sometimes you do, yeah.
But at other points, like, at that type of scope of it, if you have a coming up artist, you're not making $350 a month, a year from your streaming.
Does that festival also does it provide the value for that $350?
Right.
It's a decision you have to make, I would think.
Exactly. And then and then you probably don't even have that much control anyway. They would be like, hey, you got a 30-minute, 40-minute set, or whatever. So I think that I think there is an area to have, like, those music festivals, but then you're just relying on the atmosphere of bringing something to the people.
Right.
Hey, you like good music, you like Tejano music or the hip-hop music, depending on your area, and you get those artists like, hey guys, here's what we're doing. All we're asking from you, bring your fans.
Yeah.
You can sell your merchandise at these tents, like, and then maybe you make money back from the vendors or your own ticket sales coming to the door. But I would say, bring in artists who love what they do, vet the artist, and don't make them pay to come in. Yeah. People like to see live music. So you can come to the city and be like, hey, we're going to have a festival from, like, 7 to 10 p.m. in San Antonio. like people will go
Yeah.
because you know what, live music's fun.
It
The
is.
environment's fun. If you don't like it, go hit the beer tent.
Yeah.
Get drunk.
Right. You
But-
might like it a little more later.
Exactly. A $10 ticket, like I
Right.
think you just have to hit your price environment, but
Sure.
I think it can do well if you don't put it on the artist they're already doing a lot to bring their material,
Right. Interesting.
you know.
Kind of, well, I don't know if it's necessarily changing gears, but I know I think you have a lot to say on matters like this, and it's as I ask you as an artist and as someone that is continuing to put out work, right, and to keep working towards your goals. How much does sacrifice come into play? What is your advice about that concept of sacrifice? What does it mean to you? What has it meant in your journey? Have you had to sacrifice? Obviously, I guess for those, and I'll say obviously, but for those that are aware, we have the basketball team, the minor league basketball team, and we try to talk about sacrifice to the players, to the staff, about it is required. I think very strongly it's required for somebody to reach for something outside of the ordinary. It's going to require sacrifice of some sort. The sacrifice looks different for different people. You can't look at my sacrifice and be like, nah, he's not sacrificing like I'm sacrificing, because you don't know what my sacrifices are.
Right.
And vice versa, I don't know what yours are. So you can never judge two people against each other, I feel like, when it comes to their sacrifice. But having said that, if you look at anybody in the world that has achieved some sense of success, I feel very strongly that person has had to sacrifice somewhere in their life. What is your feeling or feelings about sacrifice?
I think it's absolutely necessary because it comes down to two things. To get where you want to go, it's discipline and consistency.
Okay.
So if you look at what you're passionate about, or you have the discipline to put the time aside to meet your own goals, and the consistency, what are you consistently doing? You know, I have friends who are like, hey, you don't want to see me, you don't want to come out on the weekends,
Right.
you don't go out and party, we don't get dinner.
Yeah.
Well, I can't do that all the time because I want to be in the studio working on music. I don't want to be spending all my money going out to dinner all the time.
Right.
And so the consistent, you have to make those sacrifices. Like, hey man, I can't go out with you tonight, but let's do something next weekend.
Right.
So it's like, what are you consistently working on? And you have to weigh, is what you're doing gonna help you get closer to your goals? Is going out all night on a Friday gonna help? Maybe not.
Right.
Most likely not. And then, because you're not gonna be very productive the next day.
Right.
So I think that's where it comes down to. In time, sometimes I want to sleep, get some good rest, but I got to wake up early because I want to work on a project or get something out. And so I think it always has to exist. And then you need people in your life who are going to understand that. And anybody who doesn't, then they're not in line with what your goals are.
Interesting.
But yeah, those two things, discipline and consistency, are the two main reasons why sacrifice has to exist.
How you kind of touched on time. How valuable is time? I think that for me, it's more so in recent years that I kind of was even thought about this. Money has money is money. The world runs on money.
Mm-hmm.
But time is the one thing you can never get back. And I think that it's might be scary at times when you really start to think about how time is slipping away all around us.
Right.
Every second goes by. So how valuable is our time? How valuable is time to you? What does that mean to you?
I mean, it is the most valuable thing we've got. No amount of money. If I have $20 and you take $20 from me, I can probably get another $20 bill. Go to ATM, pull out a 20, and I can go buy something I want.
Right.
You take an hour of my time,
Can't get it back.
I can't get that back. So it's how are we utilizing our time, and then the people in our lives, are they utilizing our time appropriately? And so I think it's important to just know that. You gotta surround yourself with the right people. People aren't gonna waste your time, being with negativity, right? Bringing their problems to your life without not taking any guidance. They just wanna complain to you. That's not productive time. Same thing with working on projects or whatever. So recently, in the past year, I cut cable.
Yeah.
So I don't even have TV anymore.
Wow.
I just, streaming platforms.
Yeah.
So I go through my occasional binges,
Sure.
but the TV's like, I mean, since I cut that off, I'm not so inclined to like turn it on and just let something be in the background and then spend an hour or two watching like ESPN, Sports Center.
It diverts your focus.
Exactly. So now,
Brings it back.
yeah. So now I'm like, okay, what? Cool. Like, do all your responsible stuff. But then it's like, all right, now I'm gonna go sit in the studio. Like, let me go work on something. Let me pick up my guitar and, like, where am I spending my effort?
Sure.
So I think it is the most valuable valuable thing I've got in my life.
Yeah.
Like phone calls. Sometimes I talk to people on the phone, they want to talk for an hour. I'm like, and I'm like, man,
Yes.
like, a 15-minute conversation could have been great. And then we talked for an hour, and in the evening, get off at work at 4 or 5, go to the gym.
Yeah.
You come back to the house at like 8 o'clock, you want to eat something, and then people talk to you on the phone for an hour, and you're like, I got to get to bed. Like, I can't go in the studio for 20, 30 minutes. I mean, there's no way, I'm going to get lost in it. So it is the most valuable thing. I mean, you miss a meeting or people are late, like, that's when you know the true value. When I hold studio sessions and artists are late, that is frustrating because the time starts. And if I pay in a vocal coach to come in to warm up the artist, but the artist is late, now that's money out of my pocket.
Interesting.
Because, you need them to warm them up, they're going to hang out for the session. So instead of a session starting at, say, 1 o'clock, starts at 1:30, now you're paying, that vocal coach for that time. So now there's financial value to it.
Interesting. Do you find in your time away from the studio, in daily life, or when you do go out, do you find inspiration in certain places? Do you, as a creative, where do you have a place that you tend to find inspiration strikes you the most?
Yes, when I'm running by myself down a trail, and I stop, maybe there's like a nice view, and you're like, this is life. I'm not buried to a phone. I'm not thinking about, the beautiful luxury things that I want later on in life. But like, you're like, this is it. Like, there's peace out there. And so I find that inspirational because it's a reminder to me that I can be and do what I want to do. So that's always fun. I think being out with friends, live music's always inspiring because you see people doing a craft that you also love. And so you're like, wow, like you could just do that.
Do you, when you see that, other artists, I think that often people tend to get into this mentality where they're like crabs in a bucket. And everybody's clawing to get over each other to get out and to reach the top. But I don't think it has to be like that. Even in competitive things that are built on competition, I use sports as an example. I don't think two athletes necessarily have to have that mentality towards each other.
Right.
As an artist, there is competition, I suppose, in trying to be discovered and trying to make it to whatever that goal is for a creative and for an artist. But I would think that there is a place for support and appreciation, right? What is your take on that?
I think 100%. Like you're your biggest competition. How are you? Where are you leveling up to other people? And so I always look at other artists as like, okay, like they're doing great things. Like, how can I be better? I never try to look at other people and be like, wow, I can totally do that much better than them. But it's appreciation for the craft.
Sure.
So I love going up and like shaking hands with the DJ and be like, hey man, like this is awesome, like you're rocking it, And then even if maybe in the back of my mind, because I know I always judge every DJ, but maybe in the back of my mind, like I can play better than them. But you know what? I'm gonna still go show them support. But I think like you are your best competition, and it's a matter of making yourself better.
Okay.
But I like what Lao Tzu had said in the Tao Te Ching. He said, I know.
Okay, you're gonna drop some knowledge on us. Okay, all right.
It wouldn't be a session if I did, right? That sounds quote books. So this one is, if you compete with no one can compete with you. And I think I think with that, obviously that can be interpreted different ways, but to me that just means like, if you and I are doing the same thing, if I'm not looking at competing, then I'm not looking down at myself and not being good enough. And I think that's what it comes down to. You're eliminating the fact of taking away your own confidence. Whereas If I'm not looking at you as a threat, like you're saying, or like we're competing to get number one spot, then I'll be like, hey, I still have skill, I have passion, I can work hard to do what I want to do.
Right.
And so therefore, then I know I'm always going to be good because I keep working at it. Whereas if you're always trying to level up, yourself against someone else, there's opportunity to put yourself down. And why do that?
Right.
Just keep working hard, do the best you can do, have the discipline and consistency towards your craft, and you can reach your goals.
Interesting. Do you have any, any parting words of wisdom for any artists out there? I think we kind of touched on this the very first episode we did, but do you have any advice for somebody that is striking out? It is early on in their DJ career, their music career in particular. Mm-hmm. What would you? This is a year later, so there's a year's, a year more of knowledge for you, a year more of experience. I think that you're definitely talked about it here. You're not a selfish-minded person where you're going to withhold, your experiences. Do you have anything out there for anybody listening that is just getting started?
Yeah, I would say you're always going to strike out at some point, but you have to keep working hard and remind yourself of why you're doing it. Your craft. Like, are you making music for yourself, or are you making it for somebody else? And study great people. If you hit roadblocks, then copy like an artist. Listen to your inspiring people that you look up to. Your favorite artists. Listen to their music and keep trying. And never be afraid to put yourself out there for exposure. Always go. Say yes. Go out to opportunities. Go find other DJs. Find other people who make the same music you do. Support them. Then find an avenue for you to get out so that they can support you. Just keep yourself involved in that scene with those people. Never be afraid to talk about what you love to do. Always talk about it. Every conversation, if you want to be a DJ or you're a new artist, you're singing, always talk about what you're doing. Let people know when they associate your name or who you are with your craft and what you're passionate about. And I always do it. I walk up to see people sometimes, either from the day job or other times, and they're like, hey, this is DJ UnProtected. Yeah. Because I talk about it, or they see me doing it, And so you have to be able to put yourself out there. Never be afraid to put yourself out there and talk. And that's not talking about yourself in a negative way. You're not like, oh, I'm awesome at what I do. You're like, no, I love music. I DJ. I sing, whatever it is. So that's what I'll tell the young artists. Can always just let people know who you are and what you're doing and share it.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate your time. It's been a great conversation. I think that it's really enjoyable to watch and to watch you as an artist. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy the music, and I'm excited to hear the Christmas album for sure. I think that'll be very cool. Do you have anything else on your mind you want to get off your chest?
No, I appreciate you inviting me back. I think this is a great series. I'm very excited for the next year. Yeah. I hope I can be back for a season 3 or any episode you invite me back to.
Anytime.
I love the support for the music, and then if anyone out there, so if you want to follow me at Instagram, @UnProtected, same thing on Twitter, and then obviously my website, djunprotected.com. I love to connect with people and share what I love doing. And once again, thanks for having me back.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks, bro.